episode of Videoclerks Rental Reviews. I'm Cassidy and I work at K&B Video.
And I'm Christopher.
Today we are going to be reviewing The Wolfman, Valentine's Day, The Road, and Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland. But I think before we start, we should have a moment of silence, for Dennis Hopper. And I don't know, I guess Gary Coleman. That's sad too. It's sad too. All death is sad. So,
all right.
5 seconds, moments of silence for them.
I like you had to count that down.
We're counting off the seconds, the silence. Okay, so the first movie we're going to start out with today is The Wolfman, directed by Joe Johnston, and here's a clip for that.
Stop. Speak up.
Okay, The Wolfman is starring Benicio del Toro, who's playing Lawrence Talbot, and he is returning to England to find out about the death of his brother. It's a remake of the original 1930s Universal classic. So the plot basically follows the exact same until the third act, and then it gets a little different. But his father, played by Anthony Hopkins, is very mysterious, and he's obviously hiding something, and you sort of get to find out a little bit about that. Then he has a love interest played by Emily Blunt, who's also sort of helping him reveal these secrets, and he has a man who's kind of meddling in all of it, named Aberline, played by Hugo Weaving, and he's sort of the antagonist, sort of. I guess he's the hero, depending on what side of the story you're on. But this is a fairly mediocre movie, I thought. I was really looking forward to it. It's one of my big releases of the year that I wanted to go out and see in theater, because werewolves don't get done very often unless they're intermingling with vampires in some sort of lame way. And so I was really excited to see how they were going to remake this movie, and I liked the cast and everything, and the previews made it look like it was going to be pretty awesome. But they're pretty misleading previews, I think. A lot of this movie is pretty slow. It feels like the action, or not even just the action, but the story never really takes off. I never get all that invested. A lot of the acting is pretty flat all around. I thought that Benicio del Toro was especially kind of mailing it in this time. And Emily Blunt couldn't have cared for her character less, really. There is some good things about it, though. I liked the design for the Wolfman, and I really liked Hugo Weaving's performance. I thought his was probably the best of the bunch, and he was in the movie the least, of course. So I had to give this movie a C.
Nice. I didn't go much further. I went to a B-.
Okay.
Mostly because I did really like the Wolfman appearance. How it didn't go
bipedal.
Go all underworld style with the big old head and massive muscles. It was just a Wolfman. It worked really well. Very classic. Very like the classic look of it.
Like the Lon Chaney Jr. look.
But I went into this knowing it was going to be cheesy as all crud. Because Joe Johnston's other movies are Pagemaster and Jurassic Park 3 and Jumanji.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just like, see, I love Pagemaster, so I recall that, and I'm like, this movie is going to be terrible, but I'm going to go see it. So, and I was pleasantly surprised.
You were surprised after that.
Because I went in it with low expectations. I really thought it could have been darker, though. Like, they put this very glossed over movie dark, and then it just... I call it the Van Helsing problem, where they just go, now let's just throw a bunch of useless CGI into it and ruin it.
Yeah.
So
the CGI was very disappointing. There was and it was needless CGI, kind of like with Ninja Assassin. There was like plenty of stuff you could have done with real props or whatever, and they just instead had CGI.
Yeah. I don't think it's cheaper either, since it was still a $150 million movie.
Yeah.
But still, it's one of those things that it had a good feel to it, and then it just decided it had to be a blockbuster when it could have just kept going dark. Like Jacob's Ladder Mental Asylum kind of dark I was hoping for, especially right in the middle.
I think a big part of the character of Wolfman is this inner struggle. This, he's cursed, and it should be a lot more heartbreaking, and they didn't capture that at all. Instead, they have this kind of pseudo mystery kind of going on that you really aren't that invested in the first place, and then when the reveal is revealed, it's not that surprising, and it kind of ends in a very cheesy, over-the-top way. So I didn't hate the movie.
Yeah, it wasn't terrible, but
it was kind of too boring to even hate.
Yeah, a good renter, but not a good buyer.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree.
But I did like Benicio in it, although it's kind of weird seeing him as an American / British, because he's like an Americanized British man.
Moved to America. Actually, that part is the same in the old classic one.
But it just seems really weird because I can only picture him in all of his other roles where he is nothing close.
Che Guevara or something like that. Yeah.